Does it feel like every part of your life is divided? Every scenario, every environment, your church, your school, your work, your friends, left, right, conservative, liberal, religious, secular. It seems you always have to take a side. This is a conversation between a progressive Christian and a conservative atheist who happen to be great friends. Welcome to Living on Common Ground.
Do you think if we met today, we would still be friends?
I don't know, but we're friends now.
A mob is no less a mob because they're with you.
Man, so what? We won a few games. And y'all fools think that's something? Man, that ain't nothing, y'all. And you know what else? We ain't nothing either. Yeah, we came together in camp. Cool. But then we're right back here and the world tells us that they don't want us to be together. We fall apart like we ain't a damn bit of nothing, man.
Hang on one second.
All right. Good. All right. So we've got a clip here from is it a progressive talk show?
I actually don't know if it's a progressive talk show. It came up on my algorithm at one point, but she says at one point that the larger megachurch is like a church that she wouldn't go to. So
Okay.
I kind of assumed that they're like sympathetic.
Okay. All right.
But I actually don't know.
All right. So we're assuming, we don't know for sure, but we're assuming that the persons who are in this audio clip are themselves maybe identify more as progressive. They're Christian because they're talking about church and they're talking about church growth. So go ahead and give it a listen, and then we're gonna discuss it,
Respond to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Here.
I was about to say tear it apart, but that's not true.
I found it so striking when I first moved to Durham. There was a row of pretty progressive mainline churches all around Duke's campus that would always put up, a pride flag. And then right before the semester started, they would put up a bunch of big signs saying, "We welcome everyone." They would do kind of vague ways of showing like, we're one of the good ones. Like we're one of the more progressive churches.
Right.
And they would welcome students explicitly. Most of those churches are dying. The big evangelical megachurch the students have to get bused to outside of town has tons of students going there. And I think part of what's going on is if a student is interested at all in spiritual things and they look at the church across the street, they kind of go, everything you're doing, I can do in a social justice group on campus.
Right.
Like nothing you are doing is distinctive. It doesn't ask anything of me. It aligns perfectly with all of the other opportunities for belonging and activism that already exist on campus. This church outside of town, and it's not a church that I would go to. I have some criticisms of the church, but there have been students I have talked to specifically who have said they believe something specific.
Right.
Like they believe something different than the world that I am in, and I'm looking for something that's different.
I think this is part of the reason why progressive Christianity, not entirely, but part of the reason it isn't finding as many adherents
Yes.
among a younger generation, because they're looking for the grounding that comes with particularity.
Yes.
And the squishiness of a lot of progressive Christianity just doesn't offer that.
All right. Of course I have thoughts.
Yeah.
What were your
do
initial
it.
thoughts though when you heard it?
I had several thoughts. One of, I think the first one that I had is that you're always going to lose if you bet against the population's desire for a purer,
Mhm.
I'll use it that word. You could say simple, but you could also say pure message. A honed message.
Mhm.
A refined goal
Mhm.
message, And so I guess it doesn't really surprise me
Mhm.
what they're talking about, especially I think if you're talking about young people. Because what they're talking about is they're talking about late adolescent people, right? 18 to 22.
Mhm.
And you can talk about the generations and with the generations being younger, longer, and all of that kind of stuff. But in general, I think somebody who's rolling into junior high all the way through college, and a lot of psychologists talk about this that are way smarter than I am, are looking for it's identity formation. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to do identity formation, and they the vast majority of the time they would never be able to articulate this. But what they really want is someone to say, "Hey, you can be more than you are right now. You have a purpose. And if I can give you that purpose, great. That's even better. And if that purpose is something that I can grab onto, wonderful. Something bigger than who you are. There is something you were made for, and that's what because that's what they're trying to do is develop their identity. And I think when we, okay, so if you're going to be stereotypical, not what's necessarily reality on the ground, but stereotypical, and you're going to say there's one way of approaching church, which is, how can I be the most fair? You actually are sinful. You have a sinful nature, but take heart. There is a plan for your redemption. Okay. And you can and should be more than you are right now. Okay. And then you go the other way and go, God loves you exactly as you are right now. Okay. God's not asking you to change. God loves you exactly like you are. Okay. And you look at those two, if again, I'm being stark here for a purpose, for a reason. Okay. I think somebody who's 32 years old and has gone through some life and has some pains and has some hurts and has some, you might even say traumas. That second way is probably going to feel really, there's going to be some healing there, right? This is going to sound like I'm saying the young people never have any pain, and that's not what I mean. But I mean, come on. The vast majority, okay, of 17 and 18-year-olds in our country, vast majority, whatever walk of life you come from, you're not living in a war-torn world. You've had a couple of breakups. I understand people have, believe me, please. I have my own stories, okay? But what you're probably feeling is a desire to be more that feels like hope. And this one over here that says, however you are exactly right now is okay, totally fine. Nobody wants you to change. Nobody expects you to change, you know? I think it can feel like, oh God, this is it? This is everything?
Right.
Oh, I'm racked by anxiety and depression and I'm, self-centered, all of that. This comes, self-centeredness, and there's no, and nobody has any expectations of me. You know what I mean? Again, I'm being stark. I'm not trying to say that anybody says exactly these things, but if you're going to go the two pathways, I can understand, it seems reasonable to me that the one would appeal to younger people and the other might appeal more to older people. Maybe. There's a thought.
Yeah, no, all kinds of thoughts, even more while you were talking than what I initially jotted down from the video. But let's see, I was trying to think where I had written this down. Okay. So one of the things, I'm going to talk about Jordan Peterson again real quickly. So he talks about how frustrated he would get with his coworkers, his peers at the university he's teaching at. Excuse me. because they would be like encouraging the 18-year-olds to be involved in activism.
Yes.
And he said that they're not ready
Yes.
to be involved in activism for a lot of the same reasons that you're talking about, right? And that it actually, if you're going to be worried about activism, it should be the professors that have already sort of gone through, and like the Valley of Despair and all that kind of stuff that we were talking about with the Dunning Kruger stuff. Okay, so that's one thought. The other thing too is just another thought, and it might not really contribute to what we're talking about here, but that popped into my head is when Jung talks about the reason for the purpose of the book of Revelation tagged on to the end of the New Testament is because it seems to balance off it provides balance to all of the mercy and that the rest of the New Testament seems to be about, and that you also have to sort of have something in juxtaposition to that. But there has to be a challenge to grow, right? And so what Jung, the way I understand it anyway, and it's very possible I don't understand Jung because I haven't studied him as much as others, and so maybe I'm experiencing the Dunning-Kruger effect right now.
Sure.
But
this is our show, so
yeah, right. And so, but the way I understand it is that if all you have is the mercy and none of the potential judgment, then there's no room, there's no purpose for growth, which is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, all of those things. I do have some questions though, and I wish I could talk to the people that did that. One is I do hope they are progressives. I really do hope so, because what they're identifying is something that I think would be helpful for progressives to identify.
Yeah.
I hope it's not just a traditionalists criticizing the progressive church.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I do think there are some things that, and one of the things, so, there's some observations that I think are observations and not facts, but that are presented as facts. Like she talks about the small churches are all dying. Well, she doesn't know that.
I had the exact same thought. Yep, you're totally right.
I mean, if she's never stepped, it doesn't sound to me like she's ever stepped foot in them.
And what would that even mean, dying?
Yeah.
You'd have to give me some sort of definition of dying.
Yeah, it's a sweeping, but you know what? It's the culture we live in. I get it. You make these sweeping statements about stuff as if they're facts, and it's simply an observation.
Sure.
Right? In fact, it's probably even, actually, dying is I take
Dying's
that back.
a judgment. It's not even
dying is a judgment. I was about to go to the nonviolent communication stuff, right? That's a judgment. That's not an observation. Right. And so she's stating a judgment as if it's a fact.
And you've given me no evidence.
Yeah, absolutely not. So that means nothing to me to be like, and all these progressive churches are dying. First of all, that's hyperbole. And second of all, it's a judgment.
Sure.
All right. But I do think that they're onto something where if all you're offering is activism, then what's the purpose? Because I can join a student organization. I don't know how this happens anymore, but I mean, I'm 54 years old. I'm not even a student anymore. And I'm still getting text messages from people inviting me to come to be part of these organizations. It's probably because I've talked at some events,
I'm sure
and things like that
up or something.
Yeah,
your name came up somewhere.
It did, and recently I've been invited to be part of the Wilson County Democratic Moms Group. I'm like, well, I'm not a mom. Anyway, but I do think it's really important to identify that there is something that needs to happen, because if a church is simply another activist group, I don't see the purpose for it. Just join the plethora of nonprofits out there that are trying to do the same work. Right? What's your point? And I think that gets to, in my mind, some of the stuff we're talking about, because the way I understand church, and the reason that I'm having a hard time sometimes answering questions that I'm being asked by our lay leader is I think that often what holds groups together is what we do. The way I understand Christianity is what holds the group together is the how we do.
Okay.
when I look at the New Testament in particular, it seems to me it's a lot about how we function together as a community, how we engage the world. It's not specifically the what we're engaging the world about. It's more about like there's going to be there's going to be
Is it like what's
inclusive-
our posture in all of this?
Yeah.
What's the
So, like-
posture we take?
Yeah, so it's not what. Okay, so for example, the activism part, right? She mentions in the clip that we listened to, she talks about the pride flag.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think that is something that that Christians are going to that some Christians are going to feel called to support, right? LGBTQ plus inclusion, and I mean our denomination that I'm a part of, we just went through all of that. But not every Christian is going to feel a call to be involved in that.
Mhm.
Right? And so I think that one of the things that the church does is when they say this is what we're about, you're automatically really limiting who's involved in the
Mhm.
church.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's no longer about the greater, it just becomes about the thing, that one thing.
Mhm.
And so what I'm saying is that the church is about, yeah, if that's your thing, then it becomes how do you engage that though? And that's the unifier,
Mhm.
right? So like if you are concerned about economic justice, right? And someone else is concerned about gender inclusion. Well, you can both be part of the same community because it's not about the what you're engaged in, but it's about how you're engaged in those things that you're convicted on. And so you can say, yeah, we're part of this community because we believe in not turning people into villains. That we're going to understand that people that disagree with us, that they're not actually villains, and we need to try to bridge gaps with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm saying is that one of the dangers, and I feel like it's fair for me to talk about this because I do often get lumped in with the progressive Christian community.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting to me because a lot of times when we're talking about the progressive Christian community, what we're actually talking about is their social stances.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Sure.
That's
how you would know.
Which is, to me, that doesn't mean you're a progressive Christian.
Sure, but that's what everyone means.
Which is
just not you.
There's a problem with that.
I agree. I understand what you're saying there.
Yeah.
But that's what everyone thinks.
I know. Right? Because I know people that are progressive socially that are some of the most conservative theological people I've ever met.
Mm.
And so I wouldn't consider them a progressive Christian. You're just a Christian who happens to be socially progressive.
Yeah. Sure.
Right?
I get you.
And so I think that what happens is when I think, and this is actually going to make the point. Maybe I don't know anymore.
Well, we'll be here either way.
Yeah. It is that if being part of this church, whatever that church is in Durham, and I'm sure I've driven past them because my parents live right there. You're identifying socially. Like you're identifying yourself with a social position,
mm-hmm.
not a spiritual one.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're saying that it doesn't matter what you believe about the nature of the cosmos. What really matters here is what you believe about the nature of human sexuality, or what you believe about the nature of economic justice, or what you believe about the treatment of immigration, of immigrants, right? And all of a sudden, you've really sort of removed a much larger aspect of what it means to be a Christian. And so, of course, if your entire purpose of existence is any of those social issues, I would argue you're not even really a church anymore. You're a social activist group.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's going to decline.
Yeah, I mean, it's initially what I think is like, well, this is what would happen if you took humans
Mhm.
and then you you decided that there wasn't a spiritual realm, and you killed God.
Mm.
Because the thing is, you're not going to kill the religious instinct.
Mm.
So you're still going to have the religious instinct. It's just going to be transferred to something else. Now, there's the other aspect of it, which is that God always loves the things that I love, hates the things I hate, always. So it's just a matter of what are the things that seem, without me thinking about it, seem right and seem wrong. Those are always going to be the things that I think that God wants me to push for or push against, right? And so, yeah, then it's going to come out in these social, these social issues.
And I think that once you make church about a social issue, and even if you're like, oh well, we're like all of these social issues, fine.
But those aren't comprehensive, because you could also, the ones that we would say always end up being, I will just say, more leftist issues, right? You could also say marriage fidelity. I really care about people being not committing adultery and being faithful to their spouse. Is that not? That's clearly an issue. You could say, I really care about fiscal responsibility with people, being a good steward. Okay. You could say, I really care about, being very conscientious about the education of my kids. And so I want to homeschool my kids so that I am not, right? These are some things you could also say, and they would also be social issues. And then they would also have you could have the same kind of religious fervor behind it. And I say that because plenty of people that I know do. Right, have that kind of religious fervor behind these things and their social issues.
Yeah, your physical health.
Exactly. So, but I want to ask you, what's your feeling about the topic that I brought up about kind of, well, say it this way, the division between a church that really cares about or has pushes for these kind of group social issues versus does the church or should the church really focus on individual development, like what we were talking about, like the ideal for an individual and talking to them, and you should, be more truthful. You should be more, you know what I mean? Like speaking to that aspect of
right. So
human experience.
Here's where I kind of come down on that. I think there's absolutely truth to the fact that if we tell people that right where you are is exactly where you need to be and you're just perfect the way you are, that we're doing them an actual disservice. And that can be like, you can just like listen to last episode, I think, and talk about that, right? This idea of the ideal, and you have to constantly be, otherwise you become destructive. And so, I mean, if you tell everyone all the time, you're just loved just the way you are, and that might be true. But it doesn't mean that, how do I want to say it? Okay. It might be true that you're loved just the way you are by everyone around you. But the fact of the matter is, you will end up not loving yourself if you become complacent in just the way you are. You'll become self-destructive. I think that there's science even behind that, right? Forget just the theology of it. There's science behind that. And so there has to be this constant challenge. And again, that goes back to the Jung about the reason that, because it seems so weird that the book of Revelation is at the end and it's very judgmental and there's the sword,
Yeah.
And so there seems to be that maybe he's onto something there when he talks about it, sort of to have a juxtaposition against the just everything. You're just so wonderful.
Well, the resurrection story is like, it's done. It's all done then.
Yep.
And if it's all done, well then.
But then there's also where Paul talks about the idea that you still have to die to yourself daily.
Sure.
Right. And so it's a model.
Yeah.
The crucifixion and the resurrection is a universal truth of the reality of the cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm sure some people will be like, no,
anyway, it's not. But that's the concept.
That's the concept of it, right? And so anyway, but here's what I would say is, but the purpose, what is the purpose of becoming a better person? And I think that when we begin to understand that when Jesus talks about the kingdom of God, right? And we don't actually know what Jesus said, but when the authors talk about the kingdom of God and they have Jesus talk about the kingdom of God, they're riffing off of a lot of what Paul is talking about with the universal inclusion of Gentile and Jew,
sure,
and male and female, right? And they're talking about this, and so what he's talking about is this idea of everyone being able to flourish.
Yeah,
and so I think that then begins to address, if as a church you identify like, if you're like, we are all about this particular social issue, if you're going to do that, that's fine. It's fine. You do that, but this is where you're going to have. But this is where, though, if you want to be different than the rest of any other group that is advocating for whatever social issue you've decided to advocate for, you have to do it in such a way that you don't treat everyone who disagrees with you as an enemy to be defeated.
Mm-hmm.
Because the minute you do that, you're just like any other advocacy group.
Mm.
And I think that is a point that I would want to make with those persons that were talking in that video, is like, I absolutely agree with you that if all we are is an advocacy group for this particular issue, and we are willing to stand with you and throw stones at everyone who disagrees with us, and call them evil, and that they stand in the judgment of God, right, and everything like that, then we've become basically Hillsborough Baptist Church, just on the other side.
Yeah. It reminds me of, you and I have talked about this before, that like, it's very common for many churches to fly an American flag, and we don't. We also don't fly a pride flag,
right?
Right, because the idea is like, no matter what, if you're flying a flag, you can to yourself say, this is what the flag means.
I'm just trying to show that whoever that is, that you're welcome here.
Right. It's just for inclusion, or if it's the American flag, it's for patriotism, and we love the people who have come before us, and blah blah blah. But it always means, because it's a symbol, and symbols are maybe more important than the matter around us in terms of.
Oh yeah, we worship our symbols.
Right. That's what we live by, is our symbols. It of course means, if you're not for this, then you're not welcome.
You're not part of this.
You're not part of this. We're the type of people who do X. And so if you're trying to be the place that is truly universal, you can't have we're the type of people who do X, and if you don't do X, you're not welcome here.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, and so for me, I can just speak for my own. You talked about the idea that God often loves what I love and hates what I hate.
Yeah.
But if we understand God as the universal Christ, the way that Richard Rohr talks about it, or the way I've been talking about it lately with Logos theology and cosmic the cosmic Christ that you read about in Paul and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then what that does is it does not allow me to reduce God to having the same preferences that I do. What it does is it challenges me to begin to not show deferential treatment in any situation, right? It doesn't mean that I don't have my convictions. It doesn't mean that I don't see behaviors that I disagree with, or that but for me, the way I'm trying to understand this is but the category becomes different. Is it blocking the flourishing of all things?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or is it contributing to the flourishing of all things?
Yeah.
And I think I think to me anyway, that's a better way of framing things.
Yeah.
And so for example, I have a friend who feels very strongly, and I agree with his position on LGBTQ plus inclusion. Obviously, I agree about it. I'm still a United Methodist minister, and I'm glad to see the changes that we made.
Yeah.
Right. But I have an issue with his social media posts because he doesn't realize it. But the things that he's posting are very divisive.
Sure.
And because he's basically, what he's doing is he is doing the virtue signaling.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Right. And he'll even go so far as to post like, look how persecuted I am.
Sure.
Right. And it's because those people are so evil.
Yeah.
Okay. Then just work for an LGBTQ plus inclusion organization. Stop being a pastor. Because as a pastor, you have to be loving and accepting of the people whose behavior you disagree with. It doesn't mean you accept the behavior.
Sure.
But you have to accept the person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's hard.
It's like the hardest.
And people don't get it, right? And then people get mad at you because they're like, well, then what you're just telling them that they can continue to do it. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying if you go out on weekends for fun and you beat up persons of color, I can still love you. Mm-hmm. But man, I will tell you, we'll have discussions that behavior is wrong. But I have to be able to do it in such a way that it's about what I'm for, not what I'm against. Right? It's easy for me to say, because what happens is whenever you start identifying what you're against, it always results in identifying who the enemy is.
Sure.
Because the enemy is the one the one that's perpetuating what is wrong.
I would even go so far as to say that from a psychological perspective, what you're actually typically doing is using what I'm against as a proxy to be against an image of someone that you don't like already. These are, if we've lived in this world beyond 6 years old, we have people we don't like and people we like, and they change, that's for sure. But that's what we talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago. I said that I noticed this in myself. I don't like it, but I know it's what I do. I know it's my instinct. I know it's inside me, which is there's images of types of people I just don't like. So I like it when I feel like they're doing something that I can say is wrong, ethically unsound, craven, selfish, stupid, whatever.
Yeah.
I like that. And I don't like it when I'm confronted with they're maybe a little bit more virtuous, or they were in a situation where the person that I do like, the image, the avatar of the person that I do like, come on, I shouldn't have done that, or whatever. Very, very easy for me to, I might not even know that I have covered it up before I covered it up in my mind,
Yeah.
And, that's really difficult, which is why for myself, I want the purpose of, anything that I'm going to take out of church to be about going inward to myself. I've got to die to myself.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yes. So that we know how to live together better.
Well, that's your world. I can't even get to the so that. My point is not to disagree with you necessarily.
You can disagree with me.
I know. I'm saying I'm not sure that I am disagreeing or agreeing with you yet. What I'm saying is right now with this, it's not that I'm necessarily disagreeing with you that needs to be the point. It's that I can't even get to that because I find myself to be so childish, and it's so overwhelming to try to turn and look back at myself again, that the whole point has to just be to turn back and look at myself again. If that makes sense. Like it's too much.
I think that's absolutely fine. I think it's absolutely fine. What I would say is don't stop there. Don't, because I think ultimately it comes down to acknowledging our connection to everything.
Sure. I agree with that conceptually.
Yeah. And for me, where I'm at right now in my life, and my spirituality is the biggest challenge. It is the place where I can see that. Let me put it this way. Let me step back from that. It is the place where I see the greatest potential for growth
for yourself.
Yeah, I can. This is the place where I feel massive transformation. Is when I can understand, when I can take the time to understand my connection to everything and to everyone. And then that challenges me to change the way I interact with everyone and everything.
Sure. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I'm still not for LGBTQ plus full inclusion, that I'm not for people having access to equal rights regardless of their skin color, right? It doesn't mean that I'm no longer have the same convictions that I have. It just changes the way I hold my convictions. Because if I truly believe, and I think this is something that I would challenge a Christian on, and my friends that I see who, and I will give them the benefit of the doubt, I'm not even sure they realize they're doing it, right? Because the culture we live in, it blinds us to the fact that we've turned people into enemies. I think we're getting more and more aware of it.
But that's just I think that is the natural state of being.
Yeah.
That's the natural state of community back for, we'll call it 2 million years when our common ancestors split from our, split from the chimp. I think chimps do that. I think our common ancestors do that. I think that it is the reality of forming groups. We form groups because you're one of us and not one of them. That's what we do. That's the most basic.
And I do think that unless we understand that our group is larger than we think it is, if we continue to cling to tribalism the way that we are right now, and we don't expand our understanding of our tribe, it will end up being our demise.
This is where you're a 1 and I'm a 5. When I hear you say that, I go, of course we will.
Yeah, and of course
cling to our tribalism.
Yep.
Cling to our tribalism. It's the same thing as clinging to gravity.
Yeah, and then we'll destroy ourselves.
Yes, of course we will.
Yeah.
And so
is that our common ground, that if we don't do anything, I think we can do something about it.
The way you frame it implies that we could and will progress beyond this or change.
That is my hope.
I have absolutely no hope in that.
That's faith.
Of course that's faith. Of course that is. It must be. I think our common ground in this is that in order to do this, the only thing that we can work on is ourselves. So I am 100% on board with the project of working on Lucas. in all of this, right? Continuing to get Lucas to see that whatever person is throwing down code words to show that they're on the left, that they are me. They're the same as the person that I love the most. And the reality is, the more I get to know who they are as a person and not an avatar, the more I love them. I do. I just can't help it. I can't help it. It's not because I'm a good person. I'm not. It's because I just don't think you can help it. If you get to know the person, it's like that Good Will Hunting scene when Robin Williams' character is sitting next to Matt Damon's character on the bench. And he goes, but really, I don't give a shit about any of that because there's nothing I can't learn about you that I can't read in a book. Unless you're going to tell me about you. And then I'm all in, right? That's how I feel. There's nothing I can't learn about your avatar that I haven't already learned on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or any of them. And there's nothing you can't learn about my avatar either. I'm not trying to say I'm outside of this. I do the exact same thing. I throw down all the code words also. You can't learn anything about my avatar that you couldn't just read somewhere and you know exactly what it is and what I'm doing. But if you want to get to know me, it's going to have to do with things having to do with my mom or how I feel about my grandma right now or about my kids, why I don't care about chasing dreams, why, these types of things. Yeah. Right. And the same is for them.
Yeah. So since here's a personal growth area for me.
Okay.
As I think about all this, I have to realize that the thing that bothers me when I look out and I see some of the things that I see that appear to be bothering me, is I attach to it a judgment.
Okay.
Like we were talking about earlier with the woman and her comment.
Yeah.
It's not an observation. She's making a judgment, right? And that's Dr. Marshall Rosenberg and nonviolent communication.
Okay.
Right? He talks about a lot about that.
Okay.
Is that when I am observing behavior, I'm placing a moral judgment on it.
Sure.
And where I'm judging it is self-righteousness.
Sure. Okay.
And I think the reason I'm doing that is because I'm freaking self-righteous.
Okay.
So, all right. So the common ground is we both think Jeff is self-righteous.
I mean, look, man, you can call yourself self-righteous. I will call myself elitist and condescending, and we'll both be honest at the end of the podcast.
Okay.
How about that?
Sounds good. All right. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Living on Common Ground. Please follow wherever you listen to your podcasts and share it with your friends. You can also find a link to our social in the description. The more people we have living on common ground, the better the world will be.